In today's world, people are constantly speaking, arguing, debating, and expressing opinions without pause. Everyone wants to be heard, but very few want to listen. This constant noise creates confusion, misunderstanding, and emotional fatigue. Silence, however, is a rare and powerful tool that can transform the way you live. When you stop talking so much, you create space for wisdom to enter your life. Great philosophers, Stoics, and even spiritual leaders have emphasized the importance of restraint in speech. They believe that silence allows us to observe the world more clearly, understand ourselves more deeply, and build genuine connections with others. By constantly speaking, you may think you are showing your intelligence or confidence, but in reality, you might only be revealing your lack of discipline. Talking too much often leads to regret, misunderstandings, or wasted energy. On the other hand, silence builds mystery, respect, and self-control. When you choose to listen instead of rushing to speak, you gain access to perspectives and knowledge that others miss. This ability to stay quiet in a noisy world is what makes great thinkers, leaders, and wise individuals stand out. Silence is not emptiness. It is strength. It is not weakness. It is mastery over yourself. Once you practice holding back unnecessary words, you will notice how people begin to value your presence more. They will listen carefully when you finally decide to speak, because your words will carry weight. Silence transforms not only your relationships, but also your inner self. It allows your mind to settle, your thoughts to become clear, and your energy to remain focused. By embracing silence, you open the door to transformation. The journey starts with one decision. Stop talking so much and start listening with purpose. Most people listen with the intention of replying, not with the intention of understanding. That is why conversations often turn into arguments, not exchanges of wisdom. When you choose to stop talking so much, you begin to master the art of true listening. Listening is more than just hearing words. It is about observing tone, body language, emotions, and the deeper meaning behind someone's expression. Ancient Stoics believed that wisdom cannot be gained by talking endlessly about yourself. Instead, wisdom comes when you pause, observe, and reflect. Think about the greatest minds in history: Socrates, Epictetus, Marcus Aurelius. They did not spend their lives filling the air with empty words. They asked questions, they listened, and they observed carefully. That is why their insights still guide people centuries later. Listening allows you to see hidden truths that most people overlook. For example, in a conversation, if you are always focused on proving your point, you miss valuable lessons the other person could teach you. But when you listen, you begin to understand their perspective, and this creates empathy, patience, and better decision-making. Moreover, listening is not just about others. It is also about yourself. When you reduce unnecessary talk, you can finally hear your own inner voice, your conscience, and your intuition. Many people are disconnected from themselves because they drown their thoughts in noise, gossip, and constant chatter. But once you practice silence and listening, your inner wisdom becomes louder and clearer. You begin to recognize what truly matters and what doesn't. Listening, therefore, is not passive. It is an active practice of gathering wisdom, building character, and becoming stronger in mind and spirit. The less you speak, the more you grow. There is an old saying, "A fool is known by his many words, but a wise man is known by his silence." When you talk too much, you expose your weaknesses to the world. You reveal your insecurities, your lack of control, and your hunger for attention. Most of the time, excessive talking is a way of compensating for inner emptiness. People who cannot stay silent often fear being ignored or irrelevant, so they fill every moment with words. But this habit only pushes people away and diminishes respect. The Stoics taught that speech should be necessary, purposeful, and brief. Marcus Aurelius, for instance, reminded himself to speak only when it is better than silence. Imagine if every word you spoke carried value, precision, and weight. People would respect you far more than if you constantly tried to dominate conversations. Another danger of talking too much is that it drains your energy. Every word you speak consumes focus, and when you waste it on gossip, complaints, or arguments, you lose energy that could have been used to improve yourself. Furthermore, excessive speech often leads to regret. How many times have you wished you had stayed quiet instead of speaking in anger or frustration? Words, once spoken, cannot be taken back. They can damage relationships, ruin opportunities, and expose your flaws. That is why silence is a form of power. It protects you from self-sabotage. By controlling your tongue, you control your destiny. Talking less is not about suppressing your personality. It is about mastering it. When you stop talking so much, you conserve energy, build authority, and create space for deeper reflection. This mastery separates the wise from the ordinary. Transformation begins within, and silence is one of the most powerful tools for inner growth. In silence, your mind finds clarity. Instead of being scattered by constant chatter, your thoughts become organized, focused, and meaningful. Many people live in chaos because they never allow themselves moments of true quiet. Their lives are filled with endless conversations, social media, arguments, and distractions. As a result, they never hear their own inner guidance. But when you reduce talking and embrace silence, you reconnect with yourself. You start asking the right questions. Who am I? What do I truly want? What habits are holding me back? This kind of reflection cannot happen in noise. Silence is also healing. It calms anxiety, reduces stress, and allows your nervous system to reset. In silence, your brain processes emotions, heals wounds, and strengthens resilience. Great monks, philosophers, and Stoics often practiced long periods of silence because they understood its power. Silence teaches discipline. It trains you to hold back your impulses, to think before speaking, and to value depth over noise. In today's world, people think transformation requires external changes, new jobs, new cities, new relationships. But true transformation begins with mastering your mind, and silence is the first step. Once you practice it daily, even for a few minutes, you will notice a profound shift in your energy, mindset, and perspective. You will become calmer, more patient, and more intentional. Silence does not make you invisible, it makes you powerful. It builds an inner fortress that noise cannot break. If you want to transform yourself, start with silence. Stop talking so much, and let stillness shape your strength. Discipline is the foundation of every successful life, and one of the highest forms of discipline is controlling your tongue. Most people believe that discipline is only about waking up early, working hard, or staying consistent in habits. But the Stoics understood that real discipline begins with the words you choose to speak or not speak. Talking less is not about weakness. It is about mastery over impulse. It is easy to speak, but it is difficult to remain silent when tempted to show off, argue, or complain. This is why silence is powerful. It requires restraint and self-control. When you practice speaking less, you start evaluating your words carefully. You ask yourself, is this necessary? Does this add value? Is this better than silence? By practicing such discipline, your communication becomes sharper, more impactful, and more respected. People begin to notice that you do not waste words, so they listen attentively when you finally speak. This discipline also protects your peace of mind. Instead of being dragged into meaningless debates or gossip, you conserve energy for things that truly matter. Speaking less also trains your mind to become more observant. You begin noticing details others miss because you are not busy preparing your next reply. You see patterns, behaviors, and opportunities hidden in plain sight. Over time, this habit transforms your personality. You become calm, collected, and wise. True leaders are not those who speak the loudest, but those who speak with intention. Discipline in speech is therefore not just about communication, it is about shaping your character. If you can control your words, you can control your life. When you speak less, you automatically command more respect. This may sound strange at first, but human psychology works this way. People tend to value what is rare. If you are always speaking, sharing opinions, or filling the air with noise, your words lose impact. But if you remain silent most of the time and only speak when necessary, your words gain authority. Think about leaders, mentors, or teachers you admire. Many of them are calm, reserved, and careful in speech. When they speak, everyone pays attention because their silence has already created an atmosphere of anticipation. This is the hidden power of restraint. It makes people listen. On the other hand, someone who constantly talks is rarely taken seriously. Their voice becomes background noise, and their credibility decreases. Stoicism teaches us that true strength does not need to announce itself. It reveals itself in action and wisdom. The same principle applies to speech. When your words are few but meaningful, people sense your depth and maturity. Moreover, silence gives you an air of mystery. Human beings are naturally curious, and when you don't reveal everything about yourself through endless talking, people become intrigued. They want to know more about you. This curiosity gives you an advantage in relationships, business, and even personal growth. Respect and authority are not earned by dominating conversations. They are earned by speaking wisely, briefly, and at the right time. Once you realize this, you will stop wasting words and begin using silence as your greatest strength. Self-control is one of the greatest virtues you can develop, and silence is deeply connected to it. Every time you resist the urge to speak unnecessarily, you are exercising self-control. This practice strengthens your character, the same way lifting weights strengthens your body. Imagine a situation where someone provokes you with harsh words. The natural impulse is to respond quickly, to defend yourself, or to strike back with anger. But the Stoic way teaches you to pause, breathe, and stay silent. In that silence, you take control of the situation instead of being controlled by your emotions. This discipline builds resilience, patience, and wisdom. The more you practice silence, the stronger your self-control becomes. You no longer feel the need to respond to every insult, argument, or opinion. Instead, you conserve your energy and protect your peace of mind. Self-control also allows you to delay gratification. When you don't rush to speak, you allow your thoughts to mature, your emotions to cool, and your responses to become wiser. Over time, this habit transforms you into a calm, composed individual who cannot be easily shaken. People notice this strength and admire it, because it is rare in a world of impulsive reactions. Silence, therefore, is not passive, it is active training for self-mastery. If you want to transform yourself into someone who is respected, balanced, and wise, start by practicing silence. Every moment of restraint is a step toward greater self-control and inner freedom. One of the greatest benefits of talking less and listening more is the improvement it brings to your relationships. Most conflicts in families, friendships, and workplaces happen because people don't truly listen to each other. Instead, they are busy preparing their next response, trying to prove themselves right, or simply waiting for their turn to speak. This creates distance, frustration, and misunderstanding. But when you stop talking so much and genuinely listen, something magical happens. People feel heard. Feeling heard is one of the deepest human needs. When someone feels that you truly understand them, they naturally trust you more, respect you more, and connect with you more deeply. Listening also allows you to detect unspoken emotions. Sometimes, people say things indirectly, or their body language reveals more than their words. If you are always talking, you miss these signals, but if you stay silent and observe, you gain insights that strengthen empathy and compassion. This is why great leaders, friends, and partners are often described as good listeners. They don't always rush to give advice or dominate the conversation. Instead, they give space, attention, and understanding. This is the foundation of strong, lasting relationships. Whether it's in your personal life or professional environment, listening makes you more approachable, trustworthy, and influential. Relationships are not built on how much you talk. They are built on how well you listen. By choosing silence and presence, you can transform the quality of your connections with others. Modern life is filled with noise. From endless conversations to social media chatter, podcasts, television, and constant notifications, people rarely experience silence anymore. This nonstop exposure to noise is harmful. It overwhelms the brain, scatters focus, and creates mental fatigue. When you are always surrounded by voices, opinions, and arguments, you lose the ability to think independently. Your mind becomes reactive instead of reflective. You start adopting the emotions, fears, and desires of others without even realizing it. Excessive talking contributes to this problem because it adds to the noise both around you and within you. The more you speak, the less space you leave for clarity. Noise keeps you distracted from your true self, preventing personal growth. The Stoics warned against this danger by teaching the value of inner stillness. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself to withdraw from the external world and return to the inner fortress of the mind. In today's age, this lesson is more relevant than ever. If you want to regain control over your life, you must learn to disconnect from unnecessary noise and embrace silence. Only then will you discover the power of focused thought, deep reflection, and meaningful action. Talking less is one of the most effective ways to reduce noise and create mental clarity. Instead of adding more words to the chaos, choose silence and let your mind breathe. True strength is not loud, it is silent. A mountain does not need to make noise to show its power, its presence alone is enough. In the same way, your strength grows when you learn to embrace silence. Constant talking often hides weakness. People who cannot remain quiet usually feel insecure or afraid of being ignored. But those who are confident, disciplined, and self-assured find no need to prove themselves with endless words. Their silence speaks louder than noise ever could. Inner strength comes from patience, reflection, and the ability to stay calm under pressure, all of which are cultivated through silence. When you reduce talking, you gain time to think, to process emotions, and to make wiser decisions. Instead of reacting impulsively, you respond intentionally. This shift transforms you into someone who is steady, grounded, and unshakable. People sense this inner power and are naturally drawn to it. Moreover, silence gives you the ability to endure solitude without fear. Many people cannot sit quietly with themselves because they are afraid of what they might discover. But if you train yourself to embrace silence, you build the courage to face your thoughts, your weaknesses, and your true self. This is where growth happens. Inner strength does not come from external validation, but from the ability to stand strong in your own silence. By talking less and listening more, you cultivate this strength and begin a journey toward mastery of self. One of the greatest disciplines you can develop in life is the art of pausing before you speak. Most people rush into words without thinking, driven by impulse, ego, or emotion. But the pause, just a few seconds of silence, creates a powerful shift. In that pause, you give yourself the chance to evaluate. Is what I'm about to say true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? Will it add value to this moment? This practice prevents regret and protects relationships. How many times in your life have you said something in anger or frustration, only to wish you could take it back? Words can cut deeper than a sword, and unlike actions, they cannot be undone once released. The Stoics believed that controlling speech was a sign of true wisdom. Epictetus taught his students that silence allows you to avoid mistakes, while reckless speech invites trouble. The pause is where wisdom lies. It gives your mind time to align with your values before your mouth speaks. When you practice pausing, your words become fewer, but they carry far more weight. People notice the difference. Your communication shifts from reactive noise to thoughtful insight. This habit also develops patience and self-awareness, two qualities essential for personal transformation. The pause before speaking is like the space between notes in music. It creates harmony, balance, and beauty. If you want to stop talking so much and truly transform yourself, master the discipline of the pause. It will protect your integrity, elevate your communication, and give you control over your destiny. Creativity does not come from constant noise. It comes from silence. Some of the greatest works of art, literature, philosophy, and invention were born in quiet reflection. When the mind is bombarded with endless chatter, it cannot create. Silence is the soil in which new ideas grow. When you stop talking so much and give yourself moments of stillness, you allow your imagination to expand. You start connecting thoughts in new ways, seeing solutions where others see problems, and discovering insights hidden beneath the surface. This is why so many great thinkers, from Leonardo da Vinci to Marcus Aurelius, valued solitude and silence. They understood that creation requires space, not noise. In today's world, people often mistake business for productivity. They fill their lives with constant activity, conversations, and entertainment, but rarely give themselves time to think deeply. As a result, their creativity suffers. If you want to unlock your inner genius, you must create silent spaces in your life. Turn off distractions, step away from endless conversations, and allow your mind to wander freely. In that silence, inspiration will find you. Even just a few minutes of quiet reflection each day can lead to powerful breakthroughs. Talking less is not just about building discipline. It is also about awakening creativity. The less you speak, the more your mind can listen to the whispers of inspiration. Silence is not empty. It is full of ideas waiting to be discovered. Observation is one of the most underrated skills in life. People who observe carefully often achieve more success, build stronger relationships, and make better decisions. But observation requires silence. If you are always talking, you miss what is happening around you. When you choose to talk less, you open your senses to details others overlook. You begin noticing patterns in behavior, subtle shifts in mood, and hidden opportunities in daily life. For example, in a business meeting, the person who listens more than they speak often understands the dynamics better than those who dominate the conversation. They can identify unspoken concerns, detect weaknesses, and recognize opportunities. This makes them more effective and respected. Similarly, in personal relationships, observation allows you to notice small things that matter, like changes in tone, body language, or emotions. These details help you respond with empathy and care. The Stoics believe that wisdom comes not from endless speech, but from careful observation and reflection. Marcus Aurelius himself wrote thousands of notes to observe his own thoughts and behavior rather than spending his life in idle talk. By speaking less and observing more, you sharpen your mind like a sword. You become more aware of yourself, others, and the world around you. This awareness is power. It helps you avoid mistakes, seize opportunities, and live with greater purpose. If you want to transform yourself, start by observing in silence. What you notice in those moments may change your life forever. Every word you speak consumes energy. Most people don't realize how much mental and emotional strength is drained by unnecessary talk. Think about the times you got caught in gossip, arguments, or endless small talk. You probably felt exhausted afterward, even though you didn't physically do much. That's because words carry energy, and wasting them depletes you. The Stoics believed in conserving energy for meaningful actions instead of scattering it on noise. By talking less, you protect your focus and channel your strength into what truly matters. Instead of debating endlessly or complaining about problems, you direct your energy towards solutions. Instead of gossiping, you spend time improving yourself. Silence is rest for the mind, just as sleep is rest for the body. It allows you to recharge and maintain inner balance. Another hidden benefit of conserving verbal energy is that your communication becomes sharper. When you do speak, your words have impact because they are rare and purposeful. People listen to you not because you speak often, but because you speak wisely. Talking less also prevents emotional exhaustion. Arguments, defensiveness, and over-explaining all drain energy and weaken your mental state. But silence protects you. It keeps your emotions grounded and your strength intact. If you want to transform yourself, recognize that silence is not just discipline, it is energy management. Every word saved is energy preserved. and energy preserved is strength available for growth, success, and inner peace. Perhaps the most important reason to stop talking so much is that it allows you to listen to yourself. In the noise of endless conversations, social media, and distractions, most people lose touch with their own inner voice. They don't know what they truly think, feel, or desire because they are too busy reacting to the world around them. Silence changes this. When you stop speaking unnecessarily, you create space to hear your own thoughts. You begin to notice patterns in your emotions, ideas, and beliefs. This self-awareness is the foundation of transformation. You cannot change your life if you don't understand yourself first. Listening to yourself also helps you align with your values. Instead of being influenced by every opinion around you, you develop clarity about what matters to you. This clarity gives you confidence and direction. The Stoics practice this through journaling, reflection, and meditation, ways of listening to the self without external noise. By talking less, you open the door to these practices. Over time, you begin to recognize your strengths, confront your weaknesses, and develop the courage to live authentically. Listening to yourself is not selfish. It is essential. You cannot pour wisdom into others if you are empty inside. Transformation begins in silence, where your true voice emerges. If you want to grow into the strongest version of yourself, stop talking so much and start listening. Not just to others, but to the voice within. One of the greatest advantages of silence is that it saves you from regret. Think about how many times you've said something in anger, frustration, or carelessness, only to wish later that you had stayed quiet. Words once spoken cannot be taken back. They can wound, break trust, or even destroy relationships. The Stoics taught that self-control begins with speech. Epictetus reminded his students, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we may listen twice as much as we speak." By practicing silence, you protect yourself from unnecessary mistakes. Silence gives you time to evaluate whether your words will heal or harm, whether they will add value or create chaos. It's like a shield that guards you from impulsive behavior. Moreover, regret does not only come from hurting others, it also comes from revealing too much about yourself. Many people talk excessively, sharing plans, emotions, or weaknesses with those who may use them against them later. Silence protects your privacy, dignity, and strength. It keeps your inner world safe from unnecessary exposure. When you speak less, you give away less of your power. This does not mean you should never express yourself, but it means choosing wisely when and how to do so. A person who knows when to stay quiet carries an invisible armor, shielded from regret, disappointment, and manipulation. If you want to live without constant blame or shame over careless words, embrace silence. You will find that restraint not only saves relationships, but also strengthens your peace of mind. Beyond its practical benefits, silence holds deep spiritual power. Nearly every spiritual tradition emphasizes the importance of silence. Whether it is meditation in Buddhism, prayer in Christianity and Islam, or reflection in Stoicism, silence connects you with something greater than yourself. When you stop talking so much, you allow yourself to feel presence, the quiet awareness of life beyond words. In silence, you discover humility. You realize that the universe is vast, life is fragile, and wisdom does not always come through speech. Sometimes, the deepest truths can only be felt in stillness. Spiritual leaders often retreat into silence to seek clarity, enlightenment, and divine connection. This practice is not about isolation, but about alignment with the inner self and the higher purpose of life. Silence also deepens gratitude. When you are not distracted by constant chatter, you begin to notice small miracles around you. The sound of the wind, the warmth of sunlight, the kindness in a friend's eyes. These moments cultivate appreciation and peace. The Stoics often meditated in silence, reflecting on their mortality and the fleeting nature of life. They believed that silence was a reminder to live with intention, humility, and virtue. If you want to transform yourself, not just mentally or emotionally, but spiritually, embrace silence as a daily discipline. Even a few minutes of stillness each day can reconnect you with your soul and the eternal truths of existence. In a world where everyone wants to be heard, the person who speaks less becomes the most valuable voice in the room. Why? Because when you rarely speak, people pay attention when you finally do. Your words are not lost in the noise. They stand out. This is why influential leaders, thinkers, and negotiators carefully choose their words. They know that restraint makes speech more powerful. Imagine a business setting where one person dominates the conversation, speaking endlessly, while another listens quietly and only speaks at the right moment. The quiet person usually makes the strongest impact, because their contribution feels rare and thoughtful. This principle applies in personal life too. If you talk less in social settings, your presence becomes more intriguing. People respect your opinions more, because they are not constantly available. Talking less also protects you from saying things you don't mean or revealing information that could weaken your position. It makes you strategic, respected, and wise. The Stoics believe that silence makes your words a weapon of precision, not a spray of scattered noise. Every word becomes intentional, like an arrow hitting its target. If you want people to value your voice, do not waste it on endless chatter. Guard it with discipline. Speak when it matters, and your words will carry the power to influence, inspire, and transform. Talking too much often keeps emotional wounds open. Many people relive their pain by constantly talking about it, complaining, gossiping, or repeating old stories of hurt. This habit traps them in the past and prevents healing. Silence, on the other hand, creates space for emotional recovery. When you stop filling every moment with words, your heart gets a chance to rest. Silence helps you process emotions instead of endlessly repeating them. It allows your nervous system to calm down, your breathing to steady, and your thoughts to organize. This is why therapies like meditation and mindfulness emphasize silence. They help you heal. Silence also prevents you from saying things in moments of pain that might damage your relationships. Instead of speaking harshly, silence allows you to cool down and reflect. Over time, this practice makes you emotionally stronger. You learn to carry your pain with dignity, instead of scattering it in anger. The Stoics faced suffering by accepting it in silence, transforming hardship into strength. They knew that silence turns wounds into wisdom. If you are going through emotional struggles, try silence. Stop explaining your pain to everyone, and instead sit with it quietly. In that stillness, healing begins. Talking less is not about hiding your emotions. It is about giving them the space to settle and transform into resilience. At the heart of transformation lies discipline, and silence is one of the highest forms of discipline. To stop talking so much requires strength, awareness, and patience. It is easy to fill the air with words, but it takes mastery to remain silent when tempted by ego, anger, or insecurity. Silence is not passive, it is an active choice that shapes your character. It builds self-control, enhances wisdom, protects relationships, and deepens inner peace. The Stoics lived by this principle, practicing silence as a daily reminder of their values. Marcus Aurelius himself wrote more than he spoke, knowing that words on paper brought more clarity than words wasted in noise. By embracing silence, you begin to transform on every level, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and socially. You become more respected, more focused, and more aligned with your true self. Silence teaches you to listen, to observe, and to act with intention. It removes the clutter of unnecessary speech and gives rise to clarity, strength, and wisdom. Transformation is not about becoming someone else. It is about uncovering the best version of who you already are. Silence is the key that unlocks this potential. Stop talking so much, start listening, and watch how your life changes. Your words will gain power, your mind will find peace, and your presence will inspire others. In silence, you will discover your greatest strength, and in that strength, your transformation will begin.